Welcome to First Live Coffeehouse for another edition of Coffee with Music People. And you can see we're here live. Emily making a nice coffee there. Thank you for that. Looks great. I'm joined this week by Rhoda, our regular co-host. And Sade will be coming up in part 2 to talk about her visit to the way station. But first, we are really, really happy to have Nick from the Cake Shop here, one of the classic New York venues. So we're very excited to talk to you.
Oh, thanks.
How are you doing today?
Good to be here.
Good. Thank you very much for coming in. I know you have a very busy schedule. We should mention at this point to give people an idea of where we are in the world. You have a David Bowie special tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was very important to obviously a lot of people, including ourselves. And we've always liked the idea. We call them these sort of micro shows where we'll have bands that basically do 2 or 3 song sets. Everybody, loves Bowie. People know the song. So we've got a bunch of, it'll be like, we're not really announcing who, but it'll be sort of people just going to get up and we're going to basically just have a whole tribute. Everybody can, just to hear the music live and everybody interpret his music the way that they want to as an artist, And we're just really looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
Great. So if you are watching this afternoon, go check it out at the Cake Shop. Lots of bands doing David Bowie classics, I'm sure.
So the Cake Shop, just so everybody knows, is in the Lower East Side. To be exact, it's 152 Ludlow. It's in between Rivington and Staten. Mm-hmm. And it's a cafe, art gallery, live music venue. And so before we even get into the Cake Shop, we want to know, who's Nick?
Sure. Yeah, it's my name is Nick Bodor. It's me and my brother Andy Bodor. We basically opened a coffee shop on Avenue A in 1995. So that's 20 years ago now. Was our first business when the Lower East Side, East Village still was kind of the wild, wild west. Trash cans on fire. Cabs wouldn't come down there quite as much. And it was great because we were able to open this little coffee shop with very, very cheap rent. It was an abandoned storefront, which if people know the East Village now, the idea of our storefront when we opened Alt.Coffee, we were called, was vacant for 14 years, was boarded up, and now that's sort of prime real estate. So it was really great to be able to come up with a neighborhood. We were there for 15 years, and then in 2005, my brother Andy was also at Alt Coffee. We were like, look, let's do a venue, because we were hanging out places like Brownies and all these, seeing these great bands like The Fall in a small venue, and lots of that was like a whole scene where sort of Alice Donut, these bands kind of came out of in the 90s, and we were like, well, let's in 2005, let's do a music venue. So our business partner Greg Curley, who was one of our original employees at the coffee shop, we all got together and we found this space at 152 Ludlow Street, and it made sense to us being in the bar business and coffee business that we do a cafe in the day. And originally we had a full record store, which unfortunately, as things changed, we were like, okay, we want to be here for 20, 30 years. So the record store was taking up a little bit too much space. And I kind of came back into the management at that point. I had to kind of be the hatchet guy. My brother and my business partner were not excited to lose the record store, but I'm sort of I'm more of the business guy. I'm like, if we're going to be here, we got to roll with it. We got to be able to be nimble and change if necessary. So we had to get rid of most of the record store, and we still have a hand-selected bin, as we call it, like local bands, like Parquet Courts and bands that we really like that have kind of come up through us over 10 years. We still sell some vinyl, curated vinyl, basically. Yeah.
That's great. I always remember it as that place.
And it was great because you could have a beer. We only had a beer and wine license when we first opened, and you could browse through the records. And we had little holders where you could put your beer down in the cups and browse through. And it was really fun. And there's a part of us that if things really take off or something and we were able to justify the square footage we'd love to kind of get back into that if possible. But,
sure.
We want to give people a place to have a living room as well. Everybody in Manhattan's got small apartments, so we're sort of that third space where people can come and get together, but having the record store takes up some of the real estate, unfortunately.
So how did you guys get the name Cake Shop?
Yeah, so Cake Shop in the UK is kind of like a cafe, but it's not a very common. Most Americans don't know what Cake Shop is, so it's great because we're the cake. We're not the Cake Shop, we're Cake Shop. Of course, being music nerds that we all are, it's actually this band, the Swell Maps. They're like a post-punk 80s band that never quite made it huge, but they had a song called Cake Shop Girl, and it's about having a crush on your local cafe girl, kind of thing. And we just thought it's a great song, and it's a very obscure reference, but that's what it is.
And then I wanted to know, so you have this business with your brother. How is it working with family?
Oh, it's definitely, in my job, I feel, is to keep the place open and make sure we're profitable. And Andy's job is to book the best bands that he can. And so he's very much got, I think, like the artist mindset. And he's just cares about artists and talent so much that he always, almost to a fault, where obviously we want to pay the bands as much as we can. I think we have a really great reputation of taking care of bands, but there's times where I'll have to be like, look, we gotta, have the money to pay the rent and the bands. If unfortunately it's a snowy night and nobody can come out to the bands, it's a problem. But we can't dig out of our pockets we can, if we can, we do. But that's the sort of things where at working with your brother, with very, very different mindsets, it's sort of like we have to reach consensus where there's often things where he wants to do things and I think things should go another way. And it works both ways. So we both have to cave in quite often and just do what's right for the business, and just keep it open.
I'm one of 6 kids, and I can't imagine working with
it's tough. And we've been doing it a long time. I mean, him and I, we opened Alt Coffee in 1995, so it's 20 years. Wow. We've made it this far. So, we're constantly butting heads, but it works for us, and I think we really complement each other. I mean, I can't even draw a stick figure basically, but he really, his creative, even a lot of the aesthetic is all him. And that's, when you think about what some people spend for interior design in a Manhattan club, it's probably our whole build out budget, and I think that's what gives us this sort of authenticity and, not to use buzzwords, but it resonates with people. People just to feel comfortable there, and that's all Andy's aesthetic and everything.
And since you guys are open for so many hours, like, do you spend most of your time like in the office, or are you like hanging out there too?
I was behind the bar. I worked bartending shifts in the venue 3 nights a week up till recently. So I just kind of say I just retired from bartending recently because I wanted to concentrate on growing. Yeah, right, exactly. It was meant to be temporary, of course, and it's such great, easy, money working in a venue. You get to, you're meeting people, you're making drinks, you're making people happy, you're seeing great bands. I just felt like it was time for me to pull back and concentrate on growing the business. I mean, we think we're enough of a brand now, and I think where people know us in all the guidebooks like the live music venues and Let's Go and other books. We're known to, if you're in New York City, if you're traveling from anywhere over the globe, and you're in New York and you want to see a good band, and our whole sort of philosophy is for $5 to $10, you should be seeing 3 to 5 really good bands. So I think our reputation is, if you want to go see a band you've never heard of, go to Cake Shop and it'll probably be pretty good. It'll probably be well curated, and that's important to us. So.
We were talking a bit before about that. It's getting harder and harder in especially the Lower East Side, East Village, to find those venues where you can still go and see emerging indie artists, and I think it's great.
Unfortunately, people do this sort of lowest common denominator type stuff where it's I think it's. I'm not bad-mouthing other places, but like Bleecker Street is very well. You're going to go see somebody doing a Bob Marley cover or something. That's not really what we do. We want you to see some exciting, new band that just sounds great, and And
then do you guys usually do like a theme, or is it kind of just eclectic?
Well, one thing we do is we try to craft a bill. Meaning, if there's a band from if there's a band from Oakland that's coming all the way across country, we're going to put them with a local band like from Brooklyn or something that's similar. We're not going to put a punk band necessarily. We might have like experimental nights where we'll be a little bit more out there, but that will be that night where this band PC Worship, who are a great, like very sonic like band, and if we're doing that, then it's going to be that kind of a night where we're not going to do that and then have an underground hip hop act with a punk. It's just, I understand the appeal of that, but that's not quite what we would do. We would do it as
Still surprises me how little curation there is that goes on, and it sounds like you guys.
Yeah, that's what we really want people to feel like they're paying a couple bucks to come in. They should see some good bands. And
Awesome.
I always like to ask if there's one thing you think is unique about the venue that no other venue really does, or is it just kind of a combination of...
Yeah, I think, it's a basement space. Our stage is only 8 inches high. And I think that because me and Andy are so hands-on, and they're like, if it is a snowy night and the bands come from New Jersey or something, they're driving like, hey guys, let's do a shot together. Let's do a round, we'll do drinks together, give them extra drink tickets, whatever we can do to, kind of make the bands. And I think after 10 years that people go back to their hometowns, like, oh, those guys from Cake Shop are really great. Try to get a gig there if you're coming through New York. And so, yeah, it's just, having, I think our personality is part of it. And so we have only this 8-inch stage. It's low ceilings. It can get crowded. The sight lines are bad, but the sound is good, and you feel like you're at, it's that sort of basement show vibe that I think people like. And, it's great. We can say that, Vampire Weekend and Pains of Being Pure Heart and MGMT, they had their early shows on our little 8-inch stage, and it's just great to be able to say that kind of stuff.
My next question is like kind of a two-part question. It's like, I just want to know like the kind of the struggles. Like first, let's start out with like the beginning struggles and also like the day-to-day struggles.
Yeah. We basically took a raw space. They call it white box. There wasn't even there wasn't a toilet. There wasn't anything there. There wasn't the certificate of occupancy, which normally when you rent a space, you get all that. So we thought we'd be open. We got 3 months free rent. We're like, great, we'll build this place out, do it our way. And then we ran into problems with the city and wound up taking 14 months to get open. So we had to pay rent for 11 months with no sales coming in. And that's where we were like, oh boy, how are we going to do this? Yeah. And then, luckily we did a sort of a second round of financing. We've never had deep pockets. It's kind of we've always been underfinanced. We've always, that's always been a big struggle. If we just had a little bit of extra money in the banks we do hit a blip, then we can roll with it. And we've always had to scramble if that happens, and it happens all the time as a small business owner. So that was the first. We basically signed a lease in 2004, didn't get open until 2005, and so we were opening with sort of a hard scramble, as I call it, like just we got to get open, we got to get. And but they took off really well because at that point, from the other places, and Andy, was like an assistant booker at Brownies back in the day. That's how he came up, and he learned under this guy, Chris White, who's like a great East Village booker. And so he had a lot of contacts at that point, and so we booked really solid in the beginning, and people really liked it and everything. So it was great for 8 years. We ran.
In 2005, like how was the Lower East Side then? Was that
it was already a strip in the sense that like the community was not up for more bars opening, so we only opened with a beer and wine license out of kind of respect. And then we earned a full liquor license. That's another thing we thought it would take maybe 8 months. It took a year and a half to get bumped up to a full license. We made a mistake, and we served an underage person, and it wound up. We almost got closed again. So we wound up having to pay a $20,000 fine. We could have lost our liquor license. So again, we were scrambling.
We actually spoke earlier about the show. We were talking about that, and I would like to hear that story.
Yeah. So 2012, we ran into a situation with our landlord. There was a very fair landlord, and we had a very fair lease. Our initial lease was for 10 years, but then we got into this little thing, a sort of corollary of the lease, and we had a real estate issue where all of a sudden in year 6 we had to pay $18,000 extra that we didn't have. Then they billed us late for it, so now they're like, oh, by the way, the second year is due. So within 2 months it was $36,000, and they're like, we can evict you for this. It's in your lease that this is extra rent and you're behind in it. So we're going to go through eviction. And so we were like, gosh, we're going to lose everything if we just had a little breathing room. That's what it always comes down with us is. And we just didn't have it. We didn't have $36,000 in the bank, or we didn't have family that could lend us the money or whatever. So we did a crowdfunding on Pledge Music, which everybody kind of knew Kickstarter back then, but Pledge Music was very music centric, and they'll do stuff where you can fund a band going into the to record, and you're basically buying the album ahead of time. So it's a really unique model. And I was like, they actually knew we were having some trouble. We sort of had a public outcry like, hey, we're not sure what we're going to do. We want to keep our doors open. And Pledge Music said, well, let's do a crowdfunding. And, in 2012, that was still kind of a newer thing. So, we just said, hey, we'll give, you could prepay for 12 drinks and you get a car and you get drinks and they're prepaying for that. And we had, artwork from some of our posters that were signed by bands and just, we wound up raising enough and paying off the landlord, and we worked out an agreement, in court, and we had to very aggressively pay them back in 3 months, and if we had screwed that up, we would have been out. But luckily, the crowdfunding gave us that bumper that we needed, and it was really, really special for me and Andy, because as we are like, we're not millionaires, and we're pulling out a little bit of money here. Yeah, we're living in New York, which is the dream, right? But then we were really honored that people cared enough about us. We had been open about 8 years at that point. And it was just very flattering and very humbling. We weren't looking for a handout. We just wanted to survive and keep the place going. And it was really rewarding that people, really enjoyed what we were doing and didn't mind giving us a couple bucks here and there. And yeah, it was great.
A great venue
Yeah.
story, right?
Yeah. It's just really special, and we're very thankful. And then now 3 years later, we just signed a new 10-year lease in June, so we know what we're in for. And we have new landlords that are fair. It's a fair deal. That's all you can ask for a fair these days. There's no deals left anymore in the neighborhood. When the neighborhood was gritty, you get a great deal. That's over in Manhattan, Lower East Side, East Village. So a fair deal is all best you can hope for, and we feel like we got one. So yeah, we're feeling really good about everything.
So what about the future, Nick? Is the cake shop onwards and upwards?
Well, I would love, I'd love to open another city. We've toyed around with, we go down to South by Southwest in Austin all the time, and I don't think that's the right city for us, but it's really inspirational to run into all these other venue owners, and I try to do panel discussions when I can. And in 2013, I led a panel on what does it mean to be a scene and creating a music scene, and we had the owner of Mohawk was on my panel, and a girl from the 40 Watt Club down in Georgia, and it was just really interesting to meet other owners and deciding like, where could we open a cake shop? And I think London's a great rock town, and my wife was from Scotland. I always think like I'd love to do a cake shop in Glasgow. And London is, well, compared to New York, right? But that's and I this is kind of a strange little weird story, but we were actually in downtown Las Vegas, which people were like, why would you open a cake shop in Las Vegas? But the Zappos, Tony Hsieh, was starting this sort of utopian thing where he put $350 million of his own money to build up downtown Las Vegas. Instead of building, a Google campus or whatever, he was going to invest in the downtown. So he wanted to kind of cool small business owners. So we went out and we looked at some spaces, and but it just wasn't quite the right move. I mean, I would have loved the idea of having no touring bands here in Las Vegas, because apparently the venue owners are all scumbags and like nobody wants to play there. Who's going to go out to see, But it's actually a great stop from like Arizona to LA if you were a touring band.
Sure.
We just wanted to, you put laundry, you have a hotel, maybe a little couple rooms where bands are, touring, small bands touring in vans. You get a hot shower, do your laundry, and we would have been able to really build this place out. But it just wasn't quite the right project. And we didn't, it would have been risky. And I'm trying to not do risky things anymore at this point in my career, I guess. It's sort of like, it's nice to be a little secure at some point. So you start jumping off the deep end on things. And that's the way entrepreneurs, I think, in general, that's what makes us successful. But there's also times where I don't want to go back to the dark year 2012 where everything's, hard.
You call it the dark year, but it's probably was reassuring. And would you consider like one of your...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it could have gone either way. I mean, either we were going to close our doors and be done that year, or hopefully we'll be open for decades, kind of thing. So, right.
So I want to thank you, Nick, for coming into First Live Coffee
Sure.
House today, and we'll put out a plug again for tonight, actually, because that sounds like a lot of fun. The David Bowie,
David Bowie tribute,
tribute, and Cake Shop, for those of you who don't know, is on Ludlow Street in the Lower East Side, and it's been around for a long time, and hopefully will be around for a lot longer as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much.
Keep supporting live music,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to have, in part 2, we're going to hear from Sade about her experience at the Way Station in Brooklyn. But first is our pick of the week. We have an emerging artist pick every week. And today we're going to listen to Verite, a song called Sentiment. Let's check it out. And we'll come back and talk about it.
Cemented in sediment, I shut my eyes to find the sentiment. Like bones cemented in sediment, I shut my eyes to find the sentiment.
That's Verite, the song called Sentiment. You've excited me again with another pick.
Yeah, I mean, that's my goal every week is just to blow away Dan, basically. Yeah. But I actually discovered this artist while I was covering a show for Ms. Mister. They played at Terminal 5 in October. She was one of their openers. I was just like, she's amazing. Her stage presence is really great. She sounds just like the recording, which is pretty nice. You didn't get to get the full breakdown, but she's got a pretty great voice. She's New York based. She started singing at about 13. Basically singing covers. She had her own cover band that she started, a punk cover band, which is pretty funny because now she's got this like alt pop vibe, but still really great. And I really enjoyed her show. So I was like, I have to introduce you guys to her.
And then what was this song called again?
Sentiment.
And is this like an album that came out recently?
It's an EP that came out, I want to say June, July, called Wasteland. There's about 3 other songs on there too, and they're all pretty great. Yeah. Yeah, pretty nice. And her first EP, it's called Echo. She actually made it, I guess, digitally or basically electronically through email with a producer, which is pretty funny because I feel like, most people don't do that. But basically over those 2 years creating that EP, her and the producer were never in the same room at the same time. So it was more like, she was introduced to him electronically. So I'm led to believe somewhat that I guess they kind of did it electronically because they were never in the same room. Isn't that interesting?
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a great EP. The first one's called Echo. And
sounds efficient.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
So let's check it out, and then let's get to your visit to
my visit to the Way Station. Yeah. So it's over in Prospect Heights. It's a pretty cool venue. It's actually saloon themed, so it's like being in Toy Story with Woody, but in like real life. And there's like a bar, and it's nice and small and quaint. I saw Layers and Frames, which they're somewhat of an electronic folk band, if that makes sense a little bit. They use mainly like loops, pedals, guitar, acoustic guitar, keys. So really nice kind of melodic, chill music. It was a really nice vibe that they created in that space.
I just put a shot up of the space.
And
it's
you can see, your stage it's very small.
small.
Yeah, so it's perfect for a 2-part band,
And in the left-hand corner, you guys probably don't even know this, is something called a TARDIS, which is a British TV show called Doctor Who, which is a time-traveling machine.
Yeah, they said that's actually considered an iconic blue box, basically. So they're known as the Doctor Who bar. I don't know if that's like official, but unofficially they're the Doctor Who bar. So that's pretty interesting.
But it's a great venue, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's one of the few venues in New York where artists get actually a decent amount of money for paying, usually just tip jar. But it's always free entry, which I love.
That's also nice considering that it's a suggested donation of $5, which I'm sure everyone, you pay because these bands are like, playing for you. But I think that's really interesting that they can make so much money, especially in a donation-based place, which is pretty awesome to hear.
Exactly.
Something else that I read about the Way Station that I think is pretty interesting is, I guess going back to the whole Doctor Who thing, is they actually have like nerd Sundays or like a geeky Sunday where let me actually read it off of their website because it just actually kind of made me laugh, where the Way Station is a nerd mecca. So our Sundays are dedicated to nerd culture and feature screenings of sci-fi and fantasy movies, Doctor Who episodes while they're in season, geeky bands as well, and nerdioke, which I guess that's karaoke on nerdy songs. I think I need to go there on a Sunday. It sounds like another interesting experience.
That's great.
Speaking of that, what attracted you to this show that you went to?
Well, Layers and Frames, I actually stumbled upon them through a publicist. Usually I'm also freelance, right? So I get to hear a lot of music a lot of times. So stumbled upon Layers and Frames, and they just sounded like they had a cool vibe that I'd like to hear. The suggested artists were like Bjork, they might sound like, and other artists like that. So I said, let me try this out because I love Bjork. They did not sound like Bjork, but a lot more different, a lot more on the folky vibe. But I see how they could equate her to them because of that experimental loop in their music. But I definitely thought they were pretty great.
So let's check them out quickly, and we'll. You got some
little
iPhone
snippet
footage, so we don't promise high quality, but we promise at least you can get.
It's iPhone 6 quality. It's.
Don't knock it. All right, let's check it out.
Don't knock it.
But this time, held me
I've already forgotten what they're called.
They're called layers and frames,
Layers and
okay?
frames.
How could you forget something so simple, layers and frames?
So how was the
Yeah.
crowd
Brain.
there that night?
You know what? I would say probably a little bit older than myself. But they all seemed like they were just there to kind of enjoy a like relaxed, chill evening, which was pretty great. The rest of their EP, which came out, I believe, I want to say March. I'm going to say March. Yeah.
Of last year or this year?
2015. Yeah, the rest of their EP, it's all in that same kind of element of being a little bit experimental with folk vibes and a lot of like looping. It's pretty interesting how the band came together. The lead singer, who's fronts the band, he's the lead vocalist, actually thought of the idea of creating this band while in China. And he's French, like a French American in China, develops his band and is like, okay, we have this American-based band out of Philadelphia. So yeah, there's that story. But
Very cool.
yeah, he met up with a keyboardist, and the keyboardist also harmonizes with him, which is a little bit of what you guys heard in the background. So yeah. What'd you guys think? You can be honest.
I actually enjoyed it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What did you think about it? Is this something you'd like normally listen to, or is this?
That's not the kind of music I normally listen to, but there's something I like about just hearing music live.
Yeah.
That I can almost enjoy every kind of music when it's
Yeah,
done live.
and I thought his tone was pretty great. It sounds pretty much like their EP, which I thought was pretty cool because you never know when you're going to a live venue, like, oh my gosh, are they gonna be as amazing as their EP, or is this? Am I gonna get let down?
Like the system and stuff.
Yeah, it actually was pretty good. I mean, it was a small stage, you could see, but it is only a 2-part band, so you got the full vibe and full effect in there.
So tell us about
Your thoughts?
the evening at the way station.
It was just pretty, I guess I would say chill. I keep going back to this chill, but it was a very relaxed vibe just because the music itself was very relaxed. I mean, on other
Drinks
nights,
are quite cheap there, so I thought maybe you might have got into trouble with that.
no. I had a very safe
it
night.
snow?
I mean, it was super snowy too, so
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to have one of those nights where you fall in snow and who knows if I'll wake up.
Were you there with friends or?
I just went alone to kind of cover it and
okay.
feel it out. I always try, chit chat with randoms, which is always fun. But
It's usually more fun, right?
the most fun. But yeah, overall, I think it was pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure there are other nights where there's a lot more energy, and sometimes they have, bluegrass or jazz, and sometimes, that can be a little more up tempo. But
Yeah.
they
How
have to
late
pretty
does
downtrodden.
the way station stay at?
I want to say it's until 4.
I think it's pretty much a 4
4?
a.m. bar.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean
awesome.
they probably don't do shows after 11 or 12, but they have at least 4 bands every night or 4 artists.
Yeah, it's
Every
mainly
night?
till 4, sometimes till 2 a.m. But
Awesome.
yeah, so I thought it was a pretty cool venue, pretty nice. I would return. I would definitely
return.
return.
So the way station is in Prospect Heights in
Yes,
Brooklyn,
yes,
and
yes.
it's a pretty much a newbie, which is why we
Yeah, it's
don't
not
have it
in
the
the
guidebook
book.
in the edition that we usually read from, but you can probably find it online now.
Yeah, just why I thought I'd give that little anecdote about Doctor Who, because I don't think you would know about that unless I guess you noticed the picture of the iconic blue
Well, the first time I walked in, I was
blue
like,
box.
"Oh, it's a time machine."
Well, when you went there, what was your trip like when you were there? How
I've
long
been there-
ago was
I've
this?
been there a few times actually.
Okay.
I played there in my secret alternate life universe.
Was this as Dan Morrow or the Morrow? Or
Did I play there in my band? No, just as solo.
how was the experience for you as an artist?
It was great in the sense that it's so nice to be able to invite a bunch of friends and supporters and say, this is not going to cost you a penny. The drinks
Yeah.
are free.
But there is suggested
The
donation.
drinks are cheap. and the suggested donation is kind of like, you don't feel like
Yeah.
bad about that as an artist. You're like, nobody's going to complain about that. So it's great from that perspective. And it's quite, it's not like $1 million sound system.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that takes some getting used to. But it's nice to play in these
What about
kind
the
of...
booking process? Was that pretty?
That's easy, simple. I recommend any up and coming or like artist that first few gigs. It's the kind of place that you want to play to like feel out
Your
Yeah.
friends
your
and stuff.
set.
Sounds good.
And seeing as it's rather small, there's not as much pressure as if you were at Bowery or something.
Right,
so.
exactly. It's exactly a very low pressure place, and it's also a great place for people that haven't heard of you before to see you for the first time.
Yeah.
Because it's just an open bar,
Yeah.
open venue, I should say. So
Yeah.
people from the bar that just come in for a drink will experience you.
What did you think neighborhood-wise? Because I just felt as I was walking towards, I don't know if it's because it was around like 8 or 9-ish, I just felt like it was kind of almost like, I guess, more quaint, like the space itself. You see a few people here and there, but you don't get a lot of that nightlife vibe as you do as if you were in LES, where there, I mean, you're more condensed with more bars and.
It's true. It's another up and coming kind of area. I mean, it's almost on the border of Crown Heights, so there is stuff going on. You just have to look a bit harder to find where to go. But it's certainly not a strip by any means or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's
no Lower East Side.
no, it's no Lower East Side, but
Hello
give it
Cake
5
Shop.
years.
I'm like, hello.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah. So that was cool. That was great. We had a classic New York venue, the cake shop, first, and then we had your visit to the way station, the kind of what the cake shop was maybe 15 years ago, just coming up. It's a nice balance.
Yeah, it sounds like somewhat of a similar story, because he mentioned how the area was like up and coming, and they had to kind of bring the patrons there, essentially.
Exactly.
Kind of like the Paper Box the week before that.
Exactly.
I mean, because they're up East Williamsburg warehouses. So when you're in, there's not much there except other warehouses or factories or empty ones. So they basically built the scene there, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Let's wrap it up and come back next week. We have a very special venue, City Winery, coming in to chat with us.
Are they bringing gifts?
I hope so.
Wine?
It's Valentine's. It's a Valentine's special. So
oh my gosh, they need to bring wine.
Some wine and roses.
I like Pinot Grigio. I'm just kidding. Just thought I'd put it out into the universe.
Are you guys planning on going anywhere this week, or should we keep it a surprise?
I'm still thinking. I'm still trying to confirm 1 or 2 places, so we'll figure it out.
I'm full of surprises, so surprise.
I have a couple of options actually. So.
All right, great.
Nice.
Great. So that wraps it up for our 3rd episode.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much. And
joining us.
We're here at First Live Coffee House every week, doing our little radio show. And come on down, 219 Central Avenue, and we'll see you again next time.
Yeah. Bye.